A sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb in front of the nursing home. It was 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning. David Miller stepped out of the vehicle, adjusting his $1,000 suit. He glanced up at the building. A mix of relief and something uncomfortably close to distaste flickered across his face. It was a decent place. He had to give it that. Manicured lawns, freshly painted walls, nurses in crisp uniforms. It wasn't the worst place to leave someone. From the passenger side, a 72-year-old woman emerged slowly, carefully. Teresa Miller, his mother. She was an African-American woman, with skin the color of dark chocolate, a stout woman, with wide hips and arms that had carried 1,000 burdens over the years. Her hair, pure white, pulled back in a simple bun. Her brown eyes, deep and knowing, surveyed the building with a sadness she tried, but failed, to conceal. She wore a simple dress, the kind you might find at a discount store. Her shoes were old, but meticulously clean. In her hand she clutched a small, worn suitcase containing everything she owned in the world. Everything she owned in the world fit into that one suitcase. "David," Teresa said, her voice trembling slightly. "Are you sure this is necessary?" David sighed, the sound heavy with impatience. "We've been over this, Mum. Our house is too small. Sarah and I both work all day. The kids need their space. You'll be well taken care of here. But I could help with the kids. I could cook. I could—" "Mom," David interrupted, his tone leaving no room for argument. "This is the best option. For everyone." Teresa lowered her gaze. Her shoulders slumped slightly. She didn't say anything else. What was there to say? This was her son, the boy she had raised alone, without a father, working as a housekeeper in wealthy homes. The boy she had sacrificed everything for. The boy who was now dropping her off at a nursing home, like a piece of old furniture that had outlived its usefulness. They entered the building. The receptionist greeted them with a practiced, professional smile. She led them on a brief tour of the facilities. The rooms, the dining hall, the gardens. Everything was impeccably clean, sterile, impersonal. Teresa glanced around. Other elderly residents sat in the common room. Some were glued to the TV, others were playing cards. Many simply stared blankly ahead, their eyes empty, as if they had given up waiting for anything at all. Was this how she was going to end up? "Here is your room, Mrs. Miller," the receptionist announced, opening a door. "It has a private bathroom, a comfortable bed, and a lovely view of the garden." Teresa stepped inside the room. It was small. Clean, yes, but small. A bed, a wardrobe, a nightstand, a chair, an entire life, reduced to a room, barely 12 feet square. David followed her inside. "See, Mum, it's nice. You'll be comfortable here." Teresa didn't respond. She sat down on the edge of the bed and gazed out the window. The garden was pretty. There were flowers, trees, a bench where the residents could sit and soak up the sun. But it wasn't her home. It wasn't the small apartment where she had raised David, where she had spent sleepless nights nursing him when he was sick, where she had cooked 1,000 meals with the little money she had, where she had dreamed of a better future. This was not her home. It was the place where she was going to die. David checked his watch. "Well, Mum, I gotta run. Sarah's waiting. The kids have soccer practice today." Teresa looked up at him. "Are you going to come visit me?" David avoided her gaze. "Of course, Mum. I'll come by every week, I promise." "Every week?" Teresa nodded, though something deep down in her heart told her it was a lie. David gave her a quick peck on the forehead, a dry kiss, devoid of affection, like one given out of obligation. "Take care, Mum. I'll see you soon." And then he was gone. Teresa listened to his footsteps fade down the hallway. She heard the front door of the building open and close. She heard the engine of the SUV start up and drive away, and then, finally alone. She began to cry. Tears streamed down her dark cheeks, staining the cheap dress she wore. She wept silently, as she had learned to weep throughout her life, without making a sound, without bothering anyone. That was Teresa, always invisible, always in the background, always sacrificing herself for others, without asking for anything in return. And now, after everything she had given, they had left her here, alone, forgotten, discarded. Teresa hadn't always been an elderly woman abandoned in a nursing home. She had been young once. She had had dreams. She had had hopes. She was born in a small town, the daughter of a washerwoman and a carpenter. She grew up poor, but happy. Her parents loved her. They taught her to work hard, to be honest, to never give up. At 18, she moved to the city in search of work. She found employment as a housekeeper in the home of a wealthy family, the Smiths. They were good people. They treated her with respect. At 24, she met Michael. He was a handsome, hard-working man, with a smile that made her melt. They fell in love. They got married. Teresa believed that her life, finally, had meaning. But Michael had a problem. He liked to gamble. At first, it was just on the weekends. A few hands of cards with his buddies, nothing serious, but little by little. The addiction grew. He started losing money. A lot of money. Money they didn't have. When Teresa became pregnant with David, Michael disappeared. He left one night and without saying goodbye, he took what little they had and left her alone, pregnant, penniless, homeless, and utterly alone. Teresa cried for days, but then she got up, because that was what she did. She got up, always. She went back to work as a housekeeper, this time in the home of Mr. Albert Henderson, a widowed man, in his 60s, the owner of several factories. He was rich, very rich, but he was also lonely. His wife had died 5 years ago. His children lived overseas and never visited. All he had was the huge mansion and the silence. Teresa worked for Mr. Henderson for 30 years cleaning his house, cooking his meals, listening to his stories, keeping him company on the long nights when the loneliness threatened to crush him. And at some point, without either of them planning it, they became more than employer and employee. They became friends, confidants, almost family. Mr. Henderson watched David grow up. He helped him pay for school when Teresa couldn't. He lent him money for college. He opened doors that a housekeeper's son never could have opened on his own. David never knew. He believed that his mother had worked double, triple, to pay for his education. He believed that he was a self-made man, that he had achieved everything through his own hard work. He didn't know that behind every opportunity he had received was the invisible hand of Mr. Henderson, and he didn't know something even more important. When Mr. Henderson died 15 years ago, he left a will that no one knew about, except his lawyer, Dr. Thompson. In that will, Mr. Henderson left his entire fortune to Teresa, $50 million, properties, stocks, bank accounts in Switzerland, everything. The note that accompanied the will read, "Teresa, you gave me 30 years of companionship, of affection, of loyalty. You never asked me for anything. You never demanded anything. You only gave me your friendship. That is worth more than all the money in the world. Accept this inheritance as my last gift. Live well, be happy. You deserve it." Teresa had wept when she read that letter, but she hadn't touched the money, not a single dime. She continued living in her small apartment. She continued wearing simple clothes. She continued acting as if she were a retired housekeeper with a meager pension. Why? Because she didn't want to change. She didn't want the money to turn her into someone different. And above all, she didn't want David to know. She knew her son. She knew what he was like. She knew that if he discovered the money, he would come looking for it, not out of love, out of self-interest. And Teresa preferred to be poor and truly loved than rich and loved for her money. But now, sitting in that nursing home room looking out the window, she realized a painful truth. David didn't love her. He never had. He had only tolerated her while she was useful to him. And now that he no longer needed her, he had discarded her like trash. The first week at the nursing home was the hardest. Teresa didn't know anyone. She didn't know the routines. She didn't understand how the place worked. She woke up early out of habit. She ate breakfast alone at a table in the dining room, staring at her plate without hunger. She spent the hours in her room, looking out the window, waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for David to come and visit her. Every time she heard footsteps in the hallway and her heart raced. Maybe it was him. Maybe he had come to see her. Maybe he had realized his mistake. But it was never him. The footsteps always passed by. The door never opened. David didn't come. 1 week turned into 2. 2 weeks turned into a month. Teresa stopped waiting. She stopped looking towards the door every time she heard footsteps. She stopped jumping when the phone rang. She stopped holding on to hope. Her son had abandoned her, and she had to accept it. It was then that she met Joanna. Joanna was a nurse. She was 35 years old. African-American woman with skin the color of dark chocolate, and a smile that lit up any room. She had started working at the nursing home 2 years ago, after her mother had died in a similar place. Joanna had watched her mother die in a nursing home where no one treated her with dignity, where they ignored her, where they left her dirty and alone for hours. She had promised herself that that wouldn't happen to anyone else. That's why she worked here. That's why she treated every elderly person as if they were her own family. The first time she saw Teresa, she knew something was wrong. She was a sad woman, too sad. She didn't talk to anyone. She didn't leave her room. She didn't eat well. One day, Joanna knocked on her door. "Mrs. Miller? May I come in?" Silence. Joanna opened the door anyway. She found Teresa sitting on the bed, looking out the window, with dried tears on her cheeks. "Mrs. Miller, is everything all right?" Teresa didn't respond. Joanna sat down next to her. "You know what, my mum was in a place like this, and I couldn't visit her as much as I wanted. I worked a lot. I lived far away. There was always an excuse, and when I finally had time, it was too late." Teresa looked at her for the first time. "I'm so sorry, honey. You don't have to be. It's just that I understand what it feels like to be here, waiting, wishing someone would come, and no one does." Teresa looked down. "My son promised to come every week. How long have you been here?" "A month." "And how many times has he come?" Teresa didn't respond. She didn't have to. Joanna took her hand. "Mrs. Miller, I can't make your son come. I can't force him to love you like he should, but I can be here. I can keep you company. I can listen to you. If you let me." Teresa looked at her with watery eyes. "Why would you do that for an old woman you don't know?" "Because everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves to be cared for. And I choose to care for you." Teresa felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Warmth, connection, hope. Not all is lost, she thought. Maybe there are still good people in this world. "Thank you, honey," she said finally. "Thank you for seeing me." Joanna smiled. "You don't have to thank me, Mrs. Miller. That's what I'm here for." And from that day on, everything changed. Joanna started visiting Teresa every day, not just to give her medication or check her blood pressure, but to talk, to listen, to keep her company. She brought her magazines and she told her gossip about the nursing home. She asked her about her life, her story, her dreams. And Teresa, little by little, started to open up. She told her about her childhood in a small town, about Manuel, the husband who abandoned her, about David, the son she had raised alone, about the sacrifices she had made, about the pain she carried. The only thing she didn't tell her was the secret of Mr. Albert Henderson, the secret of the inheritance. She kept that to herself. For now, meanwhile, in David's mansion, things were going wonderfully, or at least, that's what he thought. David Miller was 48 years old, and considered himself a successful man. He had built a real estate empire from scratch. Well, not exactly from scratch, but he preferred not to think about that. He had a $3 million house, 2 luxury cars, a beautiful wife, and 2 children who went to the best schools. Everything was perfect, except for one small detail: his mother. Every time he thought about her, he felt a pang of guilt, but he quickly suppressed it. It was for the best, he told himself. Mom is better there. She is being cared for by professionals. She has everything she needs. Patricia, his wife, had never liked Teresa. From the first day, she had made it clear that David's mother was not welcome in their home. "She's a simple woman," she had told him once. "She has no education. She doesn't know how to behave in society. What will my friends think if they see your mother serving them coffee?" David had tried to defend his mother at first, but Patricia was persuasive, and she was right about one thing. Teresa didn't fit into their world of elegant parties, yacht trips, and dinners with ambassadors. It was better to keep her away, where no one could see her, where no one could remind David where he really came from. One day, Patricia walked into David's study with an annoyed expression. "Your mother called again?" David didn't look up from his computer. What did she want? "The usual. Asking when you're going to visit her," David sighed. "Tell her next week." "You told her that 3 weeks ago. And I'll tell her again. I'm very busy, Patricia. I have a business to run." Patricia crossed her arms. "You know I don't care about your mother, David, but these constant calls are driving me crazy. Why don't you just tell her the truth?" "What truth?" "That you're not going, that you don't care, that you left her in that nursing home to never see her again." David finally looked at her. "It's not that simple." "Of course it's simple. Just tell her the truth and stop wasting everyone's time." Patricia stormed out of the study, slamming the door behind her. David stared at his computer screen, but he didn't see the numbers. He didn't see the graphs. He only saw his mother's face, looking at him with those sad eyes. When he left her at the nursing home, he shook his head. No, he wasn't going to feel guilty. He had made the right decision. Mom was better there. It was the best thing for everyone. He repeated that until he almost believed it. Almost. Months passed. Teresa began to adapt to life in the nursing home, not because she wanted to, but because she had no other choice. Joanna became her anchor, the only person who made her feel like she still mattered, that she was still human, that she still had value. Every morning, Joanna entered her room with a smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Miller. How did you sleep?" And Teresa, little by little, began to respond with more than just single syllables. "Fine, dear. Thank you for asking." It was a start. Joanna introduced her to other residents, encouraged her to leave her room, invited her to the nursing home activities. At first, Teresa refused. "I don't feel like it, dear. I'm too tired." But Joanna was persistent. "Mrs. Miller, there's a gentleman I want you to meet. His name is Walter. He's very nice. And he's also alone. I think you'd get along." Teresa sighed. "All right, just for a little while." Walter Jenkins was 80 years old. He was a thin man, with fair skin, wrinkled by the sun of 80 summers. He had blue eyes that shone with a mixture of sadness and mischief. His hair was thinning, completely white, combed back with the care of someone who still cared about his appearance. He had been an accountant all his life, hard-working, honest, never rich, but never poor. Enough to live with dignity. His wife Susan had died 10 years ago. Cancer. Fast and cruel. One day she was there, laughing, cooking, complaining about her back pain. The next, she was gone. Walter never recovered. His children, 2 sons, and lived abroad. One in England, the other in Australia. They had their own families, their own problems. They called every now and then, sent money, but they didn't visit. 5 years ago, after a fall that broke his hip, his sons decided it was best for him to be in a nursing home. Safer, they said. Better cared for. Walter didn't protest, Mom. What for? He had nothing left to fight for. When Joanna introduced him to Teresa, Walter was sitting in the garden, watching the clouds. "Mr. Jenkins, I'd like you to meet Mrs. Miller. She's new here." Walter looked at her. He saw an African-American woman, heavy-set, with sad eyes. He saw someone who carried the same weight as him, the same loneliness, the same abandonment. "Nice to meet you, ma'am," he said, rising with difficulty to greet her. "Likewise, sir." Joanna left them alone. They sat on the garden bench, in silence, watching the flowers. "How long have you been here?" Teresa asked finally. 5 years. Teresa looked at him, surprised. 5 years? And your family? Walter smiled bitterly. "Overseas, too busy to come see an old man." Teresa nodded. "My son too. He promised to come every week. It's been 2 months and nothing." Walter sighed. "I know how it feels, to wait and for no one to arrive." They were silent for a moment. "But you know what, Mrs. Miller? After a while, you stop waiting. And when you stop waiting, you stop suffering." Teresa looked at him. "How do you do that? How do you stop waiting?" Walter shrugged. "I don't know. One day it just happens. One day you realize that the only person you can count on is yourself, and the people who are here, beside you, the ones who see you every day, the ones who truly care." Teresa thought of Joanna. "The nurse?" "Yes, and the other residents, and the cooks, and the gardeners. These people who work here, who take care of us, who treat us with dignity. They are our family now, not by blood, but by choice." Teresa felt something loosen in her chest. Maybe Walter was right. Maybe it was time to stop waiting for David and start living with what she had. From that day on, Teresa and Walter became inseparable. They had breakfast together every morning. They walked through the garden after lunch. They played dominoes in the afternoons. They watched soap operas together at night. It wasn't romance, and they were too old for that. They said, laughing, and it was something better. It was companionship. It was understanding each other without words. It was not being alone. Joanna watched them with satisfaction. "Look at that. Seems like they found a friend." Teresa smiled. "I found someone who understands." That's the most important thing, Mrs. Miller. Finding someone who understands. Teresa began to change. She no longer stayed locked in her room. She went out to the garden. She participated in activities. She talked to other residents. And she started doing something she hadn't done in a long time. She started cooking. The nursing home had a small kitchen where residents could prepare simple things: tea, coffee, cookies. Teresa asked permission to use it. The director, Helen, looked at her curiously. "You want to cook, Mrs. Miller?" "Yes, ma'am. All my life I was a cook. It's what I know how to do. It would make me feel useful." Helen thought for a moment. "All right. You can use the kitchen, but with supervision for safety." "Thank you, ma'am. You won't regret it." And she didn't regret it. The first time Teresa cooked in the nursing home, she made rice and black beans and stewed beef. Nothing fancy. Simple food. Real food. The smell spread throughout the building. The residents began to appear in the kitchen, attracted by the aroma. "What smells so good?" "Mrs. Miller is cooking. Can I try some?" Teresa served plates for everyone, and for the first time in months, the nursing home dining room was filled with laughter. "This is delicious, Mrs. Miller. I haven't eaten something so good in years. It reminds me of my mother's cooking." Teresa smiled. It was a genuine smile. The first in a long time. Joanna looked at her from the door, with watery eyes. "Mrs. Miller, you are a gift." Teresa shook her head. "I'm just doing what I know how to do, dear." But for the residents of the nursing home, it was much more than that. It was love served on a plate. Director Helena was so impressed that she gave Teresa permission to cook once a week. Fridays became Teresa's day. Everyone waited with anticipation. She made different dishes each week: braised chicken, baked fish, vegetable soup, meatloaf, and always dessert. Because according to Teresa, life was too short to skip dessert. The nursing home changed with Teresa's presence. There was more laughter, more conversation, more life. The residents who had previously spent their days in silence now had something to look forward to, something that made them get out of bed. All thanks to a woman who had arrived there abandoned, sad, without hope. But Teresa hadn't forgotten. Every night before sleeping, she looked at the phone on her nightstand, waiting, hoping. Maybe David will call today. Maybe he'll remember me. But the phone didn't ring. And Teresa fell asleep with tears in her eyes. 3 months after arriving at the nursing home, Teresa decided to call David. She couldn't keep waiting. She had to hear his voice. She had to know he was okay. She dialed the number with trembling hands. 1 ring. 2. 3. "Hello." It was Patricia's voice. "Hello, dear. It's Teresa. Is David there?" Silence. "He's busy. I just want to talk to him for a moment. Look, Teresa. David has a lot of work. He can't be answering calls all the time. If you need anything, call the nursing home." But the line went dead. Patricia had hung up. Teresa stared at the phone, unable to believe what had happened. Her daughter-in-law had hung up on her, as if she were a nuisance, as if she didn't deserve even 30 seconds of her time. Teresa cried that night. She cried like she hadn't cried since she arrived at the nursing home. Joanna found her the next morning with swollen eyes. "Mrs. Teresa, what happened?" Teresa told her. Joanna hugged her. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's my son, Joanna. My own son. How can he treat me like this?" Joanna had no answer. Because there was no answer. Some people just didn't have a heart. A week later, Teresa tried again. This time, she dialed David's cell phone directly. 1 ring. 2. "Mom. Son, how are you? I miss you so much." Silence. "Mom, I'm in a meeting. I can't talk now. I just wanted to hear your voice. I'll call you later, okay? I have to go." "Okay, son. I love you very much." The line went dead. David didn't call her later. Not that day. Not the next. Not the week after. Teresa stopped calling. Joaquin was right. At some point, you stop waiting. And when you stop waiting, you stop suffering. December arrived. The nursing home was filled with Christmas decorations. A tree, lights, garlands, music. The residents were excited. Many were expecting visits from their families, children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. Teresa was hoping too. Maybe David would come for Christmas. Maybe he would remember her. Maybe. She sent a text message to his phone. "Son, I'm waiting for you for Christmas. It would make me very happy to see you." David replied 3 days later. "Mom, this year we're spending Christmas in Cancun. Patricia booked a resort. The kids are very excited. I'll send you pictures. Merry Christmas." Teresa read the message 3 times. Cancun, a resort. While she was alone in a nursing home, she didn't cry. She had no tears left. She just felt a void, a hole in her chest that grew and grew until it felt like it was going to swallow her whole. Joanna noticed that something was wrong. "Mrs. Teresa, what happened? David isn't coming for Christmas. He's going to Cancun with his family." Joanna pressed her lips together. She wanted to say something. She wanted to curse that ungrateful son. She wanted to scream at him that he was a heartless monster. But she said nothing. She just hugged Teresa and let her cry on her shoulder. On Christmas Eve, the nursing home organized a special dinner: turkey, salads, desserts, non-alcoholic wine for the residents. There was music, carols, laughter. Some residents had visitors, families who had come to spend the evening with them. Others were alone, like Teresa, like Joaquin. They sat together at a table in the corner. "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Teresa." "Merry Christmas, Mr. Joaquin." They toasted with grape juice. "You know what's the saddest thing?" asked Joaquin. "It's not being alone. It's remembering the Christmases when we weren't." Teresa nodded. "I remember when David was a boy. We didn't have much money. Sometimes we didn't even have enough for a tree. But he was happy. I was happy. We were family. And now? Now he has all the money in the world. And I'm here." Joaquin took her hand. "But you're not alone, Mrs. Teresa. You have me, and Joanna, and everyone else." Teresa looked at him with watery eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Joaquin. I don't know what I would do without you." Joanna approached the table with 2 plates of dessert. "Here you go. The best flan in the world, and courtesy of the kitchen." She sat down with them. "You know what? My family isn't here either. They live far away. They couldn't come." Teresa looked at her in surprise. "So you're alone too?" Joanna smiled. "No, I'm with you, and that's enough." The 3 of them toasted. "To the family we choose," and said Joanna. "To the family we choose," and repeated Teresa and Joaquin. And at that moment, at that table in the corner, with grape juice and flan, Teresa felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Not complete happiness, it still hurt. She still missed her son. But peace. The peace of knowing that she wasn't completely alone, that there were people who cared about her, that her life still had value. After Christmas, Teresa's health began to deteriorate. It started with a cough. Nothing serious, she thought, just a cold. But the cough didn't go away. Joanna took her to the nursing home doctor. "Mrs. Teresa, you have a respiratory infection. You need antibiotics and rest." Teresa obeyed. She took the antibiotics. She rested. She stopped cooking for a few weeks. But the infection didn't improve. On the contrary, it got worse. One night, Teresa couldn't breathe. They took her to the emergency room. "Pneumonia," the doctors said. "Severe. At her age, it's dangerous." Teresa spent 2 weeks in the hospital, alone. Joanna visited her when she could, but she worked and didn't always have time. Joaquin couldn't leave the nursing home. Director Helena sent flowers, but David didn't show up. Joanna had called him. She had told him that his mother was seriously ill, that she could die. David said he was on a business trip, that he would be back in a week, to keep him informed. A week. His mother could die and he couldn't take a plane. Joanna hung up the phone in fury. "Bastard," she muttered. "Son of a..." She stopped. It wasn't her place to judge, but deep down, in her heart, she knew the truth. David didn't deserve a mother like Teresa. He didn't deserve her at all. Teresa survived. She was strong, stronger than she seemed. After 3 weeks, she returned to the nursing home, weak, thin, but alive. Joaquin was waiting for her at the door. "Mrs. Miller, thank God, I thought that I was going to die." Teresa smiled weakly. "Not yet, Sir Joaquin. I still have things to do." Joanna helped her get settled back into her room. "You need to rest, Mrs. Miller. No cooking for a while. Okay, honey, I'm going to rest. But while she rested, Teresa thought. She thought about life, about death, about what she would leave behind. And she thought about the money, the $50 million she had hidden away. Mr. Henderson's money. She had never used it, had never wanted to use it. She had lived her whole life as if it didn't exist. But now, near death, she had to decide. What was she going to do with that money when she was gone? The answer came on its own. She wasn't going to leave it to David. Not after everything that had happened. Not after he abandoned her. Not after he didn't come to see her when she was dying. She was going to leave it to the people who had truly loved her. To Joanna, who treated her like a mother. To Joaquin, who kept her company without asking for anything in return. To Helena, who ran the nursing home with dignity and respect. To all those who had made her final years bearable. They deserved the money. David did not. Teresa called Dr. Thompson. Dr. Thompson was 65 years old. He was a tall, thin man with perfectly combed grey hair and a mustache that gave him a distinguished air. He wore dark suits, discreet ties, and always shiny shoes. He had been Mr. Henderson's lawyer for 40 years, and when Mr. Henderson died, he became the guardian of his last wish, Teresa's will, for 15 years. Dr. Thompson had kept that secret. He had managed Teresa's fortune in silence, investing, growing the money, waiting for the day she decided to use it. But Teresa had never called, until now. Dr. Thompson, this is Teresa, Mr. Henderson's housekeeper. Mrs. Miller, it's good to hear from you. How are you? Not very well, doctor. I'm in a nursing home, and I don't think I have much time left. Dr. Thompson felt a weight in his chest. I'm so sorry to hear that, Mrs. Miller. How can I help you? I need to talk to you about the money, about the will. I understand. I can come see you first thing tomorrow. Thank you, doctor. The address is... Don't worry. I already have it. Mr. Henderson always knew where you were. Teresa smiled sadly. Mr. Henderson, always looking out for her, even after death. The next day, Dr. Thompson arrived at the nursing home. He carried a black leather briefcase full of documents that no one else had seen in 15 years. The receptionist looked at him curiously. Are you here to see someone, sir? Yes, Mrs. Teresa Miller. Room 12, down the hall on the left. Thank you. Dr. Thompson walked down the hall, looking around. The nursing home was clean, orderly, but modest. Nothing like the mansion where Teresa had worked for so many years, and yet, here she was. The richest woman in the city, living in a small room. He knocked on the door. Come in. He entered. Teresa was sitting in her bed, with a blanket over her legs. She looked older than he remembered, more tired, more fragile, but her eyes were still the same, brown, deep, full of wisdom that only life can give. Mrs. Miller. Dr. Thompson. Thank you for coming. The doctor sat in the only chair in the room. He opened his briefcase. Mrs. Miller, before we talk about the will, I need you to know something. In these 15 years, your fortune has grown. The investments went well, but very well. How much is there now? The doctor pulled out a paper, including properties, stocks, and bank accounts, approximately $72 million. Teresa closed her eyes. 72 million. An amount she couldn't comprehend, that she couldn't imagine. Mr. Henderson was very rich, she said finally. He was. But you are too, Mrs. Miller. This money is yours, legally yours. Teresa opened her eyes. I never felt like I owned that money, doctor. I always felt like it was borrowed, that it didn't belong to me. But it belongs to you. and you can do with it whatever you want. Teresa nodded slowly. That's why I called you, Doctor. I want to make a new will. Dr. Thompson took out a notebook and a pen. I'm ready, Mrs. Miller. Tell me what you wish. Teresa took a deep breath. I have a son, David. He is my only blood relative. Yes, I know. But David abandoned me. He left me in this nursing home almost a year ago and hasn't come to see me even once. He doesn't call me. He doesn't write me. When I was dying in the hospital, he didn't come. Dr. Thompson said nothing. He only listened. All my life, I gave everything for that son. I worked double, triple. I sacrificed my health, my youth, my happiness, all so he could have a better life. And how did he repay you? With abandonment, with indifference, with shame. Teresa wiped a tear that rolled down her cheek. I don't want to leave David anything, Doctor, not a dime. Dr. Thompson nodded. I understand, Mrs. Miller. It's your right. So, who do you want to leave your fortune to? Teresa looked out the window. There's a nurse here, her name is Joanna. Since I arrived, she has treated me as if I were her own mother. She takes care of me. She listens to me. She keeps me company. She has never asked me for anything. She only gives me her love. I know her. She's a good woman. There is a man named Joaquin. He is 80 years old and also alone. We became friends. He is the closest thing to a brother that I have had in my life. And the director of the nursing home, Helena. She runs this place with dignity. She treats the elderly as people, not as numbers. Teresa turned to the doctor. I want them to have my money, they and the nursing home, so that they can continue to care for people like me, people who were forgotten by their own families. Dr. Thompson wrote quickly. Can you be more specific, Mrs. Miller? How do you want to divide the inheritance? Teresa thought for a moment. For Joanna, I want to leave her $20 million so she can open her own clinic. She has always dreamed of that, a place where the elderly receive the care they deserve. For Joaquin, $10 million, so that he can live his final years with dignity, without worrying about anything. For Helena, $5 million, for everything she has done for this place. And the rest, $37 million. I want it to go into a fund for the nursing home, to improve it, to hire more staff, so that no senior has to feel alone or abandoned. Doctor. Thompson looked up. And for David? Do you want to leave him something symbolic? A penny? A dollar? Just so he can't contest the will? Teresa shook her head. No. I want David to receive exactly what he gave me these past 3 years. And what was that? Nothing. Dr. Thompson felt a chill. He'd seen many wills in his life. He'd seen inheritances divided, fortunes fought over, families destroyed by money. But he'd never seen something so conclusive, so just, so deserved. There's something else I want to do, Teresa said. Tell me. I want to write a letter to be read aloud when the will is opened. I want David to know exactly why I'm not leaving him anything. I want everyone to know the truth. You can write it, Mrs. Miller. We'll attach it to the will. Teresa nodded, but not now, I'm tired. Can I write it tomorrow and send it to you? Of course. Take your time. The important thing is that the letter expresses exactly what you feel. Dr. Thompson gathered his papers. I'll prepare all the legal documents, Mrs. Miller. I'll be back in a few days for you to sign them. You'll need 2 witnesses who aren't beneficiaries. I can ask the gardener and one of the cooks. They're trustworthy people. Perfect. The doctor stood to leave. Mrs. Miller, before I go, I want you to know something. What is it, Doctor? Mr. Albert Henderson loved you very much, more than you probably knew. In his last days, he only talked about you, about how you'd saved him from loneliness, about how your presence had filled that empty mansion. Teresa felt her eyes welling up with tears. He was a good man, the best I ever knew, and I think he'd be very proud of what you're doing today. Do you think he would forgive me for not using the money sooner? For saving it for so long? Dr. Thompson smiled. I think he'd understand perfectly. You didn't want the money to change you, and it didn't. You're still the same humble and generous woman he met 40 years ago. Teresa nodded, unable to speak. Dr. Thompson said goodbye and left. Teresa was left alone in her room, thinking about everything that had happened. About Mr. Albert Henderson, about David, about Joanna, about Joaquin, about the life she'd lived and the one she had left to live. She didn't know how much time she had. Weeks, months, maybe a year if she was lucky. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She'd made a decision. The right decision. Her money would go to those who deserved it. And David. David would receive what he had earned. Nothing. That night, Teresa began to write the letter. It wasn't easy. Each word was a weight. Each phrase, a painful memory. But she had to do it. She had to tell the truth. Dear David, she began. No. That wasn't right. David wasn't dear. Not after everything he'd done. She crossed out the word and started again. David, she wrote, when you read this letter, I'll already be dead, and you'll probably have come looking for the inheritance you think is yours. I have to tell you something you never knew. I'm rich and very rich and richer than you ever imagined. For 30 years I worked for Mr. Albert Henderson. You know him. Sure, the man who paid for your school, your college. The one who opened doors for you that you could never open for yourself. But what you don't know is that when Mr. Albert Henderson died, he left me his entire fortune. Everything. $72 million. I never told you. I never used it. I lived as I always had. Humbly. Simply. Why? Because I know you, son. I know what you're like. I know that if you had known about the money, you'd have come looking for it. Not out of love, out of self-interest. And I preferred to be poor and loved than rich and used. But it doesn't matter anymore. I'm dying, David. And I've decided what to do with my money. I'm not going to leave you anything. Not a penny, not a dime, nothing. Teresa stopped. Tears were falling onto the paper, blurring some of the letters. She took a deep breath and continued. I know this is going to hurt you. I know you're going to feel betrayed. You're going to think I'm cruel and that I'm unfair. But let me remind you of something. You left me in a nursing home 3 years ago. You promised to come every week. You didn't come once. When I called you, your wife hung up on me. When I managed to talk to you, you were always busy. When I was dying in a hospital, you didn't come. I didn't ask you for money. I didn't ask you for time. I only asked you for love. And you couldn't even give me that. My money is going to the people who gave me what you denied me. To Joanna, the nurse who treated me like a mother. To Joaquin, the friend who accompanied me when you abandoned me. To Helena, the director who gave me dignity when you gave me shame. They are my family now, not by blood, by choice. You gave me life when you were born, but you took it away when you abandoned me. I hope that one day you understand what you did. I hope that one day you feel what I felt, but probably not. You'll probably continue living your life of luxury, complaining about how unfair I was to you. It doesn't matter. I don't care what you think anymore. I only care about leaving in peace, and now finally I can do it. Goodbye, David, your mother, Teresa. Teresa finished the letter with trembling hands. She carefully folded it and put it in an envelope. Tomorrow she would send it to Dr. Thompson, and then she just had to wait for the end. The following days were peaceful. Teresa continued her routine. She had breakfast with Joaquin. She talked to Joanna. She watched her soap operas. She slept. She didn't cook anymore. She didn't have the strength, but she kept smiling. She kept making jokes. She remained the Mrs. Miller that everyone knew and loved. A week later, Dr. Thompson returned with the documents. Everything's ready, Mrs. Miller. You just need to sign here to here and here. Teresa signed with a steady hand. The gardener and the cook signed as witnesses. Dr. Thompson gathered the papers. Done. Your will is now legally valid. When the time comes, I'll take care of everything. Thank you, Doctor, for everything. You don't have to thank me, Mrs. Miller. It's been an honor to know you. The doctor left. Teresa felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. It was done. She could rest now. Months passed. Teresa's health deteriorated little by little. She could no longer walk well. She needed help bathing. Sometimes she forgot things, but her mind remained clear about what was important. She knew who her friends were. She knew where she was. She knew what she had done. And she knew she had made the right decision. Joanna cared for her with devotion. Teresa, you need to eat something. I'm not hungry, Mija. Even just a little soup. For me. Teresa smiled weakly. Okay, for you. Joanna fed her with patience, the way you'd feed a child. You are very good to me, Mija. I don't know why. Because I love you, Teresa. It's that simple. Teresa took her hand. When I'm gone, soon, you're going to understand a lot of things. I just want you to know. You deserve it. All of it. Joanna didn't understand. What are you talking about, Teresa? You'll know soon enough, Mija. You'll know. Joaquin also visited her every day. He'd sit by her bed and tell her stories, bad jokes that made her laugh, memories of his youth. You know, Teresa, I almost married a princess once. A princess? Teresa laughed weakly. Don't tell me. Well, her father owned a butcher shop, and in the neighborhood they called her the Sausage Princess. Does that count? Teresa laughed. Oh, Joaquin, what would I do without you? Be very bored, probably. Probably. They would sit in silence sometimes, looking at each other, understanding each other. They didn't need words. One afternoon, Joaquin asked her something he never had before. Teresa, do you believe in God? Teresa thought for a moment. I believe there's something after this. I don't know if it's God like they taught us in church, but I believe there's something. And aren't you afraid? A little, but more curious than afraid. I want to know what's on the other side. I want to see if my mom is waiting for me. And Mr. Albert Henderson. Joaquin nodded. I want to see my Maria too. I dream about her sometimes. She's young, like when I first met her. And she smiles at me. Teresa squeezed his hand. When I'm gone, take care of yourself, Joaquin. You still have a lot of living to do. And what do you know? Teresa, maybe I'll go before you. I don't think so. You look like you're going to live to be 100 years old. Joaquin laughed. God hear you, Teresa. God hear you. The end came on a spring night. Teresa had had a good day. She had eaten well. She had laughed with Joaquin. She had talked with Joanna. But when night came, something changed. She felt a deep weariness. A weariness that wasn't just of the body. It was of the soul. Joanna was on duty that night. She went to check on Teresa, as she always did. Teresa, how are you feeling? Teresa looked at her with serene eyes. I think it's time, Mija. Joanna felt a lump in her throat. Time for what, Teresa? To go. I feel like my mum is calling me. Joanna took her hand. Don't say that, Teresa, but you're strong. You're going to be okay. Teresa shook her head gently. I'm not afraid, Mija. I'm ready. I just want to ask you something. Anything, Teresa. When the time comes, as when they read the will, don't judge me. Everything I did with love. Joanna didn't understand. What will are you talking about? You'll know soon enough. Just promise me you'll use what I leave you wisely. That you'll help others like you helped me. I promise you, Teresa. Even though I don't know what you're talking about. Teresa smiled. You're good, Mija. the best. Never forget it. Joanna started to cry. Don't go, Teresa. Not yet. Teresa wiped away her tears with a weak hand. We all have to go someday. The important thing is how we lived. And I lived well. Thanks to you. Thanks to Joaquin. Thanks to everyone. Joanna lay down next to her in the bed. She hugged her like you hug a mother. And Teresa, for the first time in a long time, felt completely at peace. She closed her eyes and never opened them again. Teresa Miller died at 3 in the morning on a Thursday in April. She was 75 years old. She died with a smile on her lips, and with Joanna holding her hand. The news spread through the nursing home quickly. The residents cried. The nurses cried. The director, Helena, cried. Everyone had loved Teresa. Everyone was going to miss her. Joaquin was the most affected. When Joanna gave him the news, he said nothing. He just stared into space, with silent tears rolling down his cheeks. She's gone, he said finally. My best friend is gone. Joanna hugged him. She loved you very much, Joaquin. She loved you like a brother. I know, and I loved her. They stood embracing, crying together, sharing the pain. The funeral was 2 days later. It was simple, as Teresa would have wanted. In the nursing home chapel, with flowers from the garden, all the residents who could walk attended. The nurses, the cooks, the gardeners, the director, Helena, and one more person, David. He arrived late, of course, wearing a black suit that cost more than all the nurses' monthly salaries combined. Patricia was with him, in an elegant black dress and an uncomfortable expression. David sat in the last row. He didn't cry. He didn't pray. He just stared at his mother's coffin with an indecipherable expression. When the ceremony ended, he approached Dr. Thompson. "Are you my mother's lawyer?" Dr. Thompson looked at him coldly. "Yes, I am Dr. Thompson. I need to talk to you about the inheritance." Dr. Thompson felt disgusted. His mother's body wasn't even cold yet, and he was already thinking about money. "There's a will, Mr. Miller. It will be read tomorrow here at the nursing home at 10 in the morning. Here? Why here?" "Because that's what your mother wanted." David frowned. "Fine, I'll be here." He turned and left, without even saying goodbye to anyone. Joanna watched him go with barely contained rage. "That's the famous son?" "Yes," said Helena. "That's him. 3 years without coming, and now he shows up for the money." Helena sighed. "That's how some people are, Joanna. That's how some people are." But they didn't know what awaited them. The next day at 10 in the morning, the nursing home's common room was full. Chairs had been placed in rows, like in a church. At the front, a table with a white tablecloth where Dr. Thompson had arranged his documents. Joanna was sitting in the first row, next to Joaquin. Helena was beside her. Behind them, several nursing home employees and some residents who had wanted to be present. And in the last row, separated from the rest, David and Patricia. David looked impatient, checking his watch every 2 minutes. He wanted to get this over with quickly. Sign whatever he had to sign, receive his mother's money, and go back to his life. Because there had to be something. His mother had worked her whole life. She must have some savings. Maybe the house where she used to live. Some jewelry. Something. He wasn't expecting much, but whatever it was his by right. Patricia, beside him, wore the same impatient expression. "How much do you think it is?" she whispered. "I don't know. Maybe 100,000 or 200,000. I wasn't expecting much." "Well, something is something, right? We can pay for that trip to Europe with that." David nodded. "Sure." Dr. Thompson stood up. The room fell silent. "Good morning, everyone. We're gathered here today for the reading of the will of Mrs. Teresa Miller de Silva. He paused. Before reading the will, Mrs. Miller left a letter. She requested that it be read aloud. I will read it exactly as she wrote it. He took an envelope from his briefcase, opened it carefully, and began to read. David, when you read this letter, I'll be gone, and you've probably come looking for the inheritance you think you deserve. David frowned. What kind of letter was this? I have to tell you something you never knew. I'm rich, very rich, richer than you ever imagined. A murmur swept through the room. Joanna looked at Joaquin in confusion. Helena raised her eyebrows. David straightened up in his seat. Rich? His mother? The housekeeper? For 30 years, I worked for Mr. Albert Henderson, Dr. Thompson continued. You know him. The man who paid for your schooling, your college, the one who opened doors for you that you could never open for yourself. Curiosity, David felt something cold run down his back. Mr. Henderson. Of course he remembered him. The rich man his mother always mentioned. The one who got him the scholarship. The one who gave him his first job. But what you don't know is that when Mr. Henderson passed away and he left me his entire fortune, everything, $72 million, the silence in the room was absolute. 72 million. David felt like the world was collapsing around him. His mother, the housekeeper, the humble woman who lived in a small apartment, the woman he'd left in a nursing home, had $72 million. Patricia looked at him with wide eyes. 72, she murmured, unable to finish the sentence. Dr. Thompson continued reading. I never told you. I never used it. I lived as I always had. Humbly. Simply. Why? Because I know you, son. I know what you're like. I know if you had known about the money, you would have come looking for it, not out of love, but out of self-interest. And I preferred to be poor and loved than rich and used. David felt like he couldn't breathe. His mother knew him. She knew exactly what he was like. And still she had loved him. Still she had sacrificed everything for him, and he had abandoned her. But it doesn't matter anymore, the doctor read. I'm dying, David, and I've decided what to do with my money. I'm not leaving you anything. Not a penny, not a dime, nothing. David turned pale. What had he said? Nothing. I know this is going to hurt you. I know you're going to feel betrayed. You're going to think I'm cruel, that I'm unfair. But let me remind you of something. You left me in a nursing home 3 years ago. You promised to come every week. You didn't come once. When I called you, your wife hung up on me. When I managed to talk to you, you were always busy. When I was dying in a hospital, you didn't come. Joanna began to cry silently. Everything her beloved Donna Teresa had suffered, all the pain she had carried alone. I didn't ask you for money. I didn't ask you for time. I only asked you for love, and you couldn't even give me that. My money is going to go to the people who gave me what you denied me. To Joanna, the nurse who treated me like a mother. Joanna raised her head, surprised. To Joaquin, the friend who accompanied me when you abandoned me. Joaquin put his hand to his chest. To Helena, the director who gave me dignity when you gave me shame. Helena covered her mouth with her hands. They are my family now, not by blood, by choice. You gave me life when you were born, but you took it away when you abandoned me. I hope that someday you understand what you did. I hope that someday you feel what I felt, but probably not. You'll probably continue living your life of luxury, complaining about how unfair I was to you. It doesn't matter. I don't care what you think anymore. I only care about leaving in peace. And now finally I can. Goodbye, David. Your mother, Teresa. Dr. Thompson lowered the letter. The room was in shock. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Joanna wept openly, her face buried in her hands. Joaquin had tears rolling down his cheeks, but he smiled. A sad, proud smile, full of love for his friend who was no longer there. Helena trembled, unable to process what she had heard. And David. David was pale as a ghost. His hands were shaking. His mouth was open, but no sound came out. Patricia, beside him, looked at him with a mixture of horror and fury. 72 million, she whispered. Your mother had 72 million and didn't leave us anything. David didn't respond. He couldn't. Dr. Thompson cleared his throat. Now I will proceed to read the specific terms of the will. He took another document. To Mrs. Joanna Silver, I leave the amount of $20 million so that she can fulfill her dream of opening a clinic for the elderly. Joanna looked up, incredulous. 20 million. To me? Donna Teresa, she murmured. Donna Teresa. She couldn't say more. The tears wouldn't let her speak. To Mr. Joaquin Ferreira, I leave the amount of $10 million so that he can live his last years with dignity and without worries. Joaquin closed his eyes. My friend, he whispered. My dear friend. To Mrs. Helena Carvalho, I leave the amount of $5 million in gratitude for directing this nursing home with humanity and respect. Helena began to sob. Finally, the rest of my fortune, approximately $37 million, will be allocated to a perpetual fund for the Sunrise Nursing Home. This fund will serve to improve the facilities, hire more staff, and ensure that no elderly person living here has to feel alone or abandoned. Dr. Thompson looked up. This concludes the reading of the will of Mrs. Teresa Miller de Silva. David stood up. This is ridiculous, he said in a trembling voice. I'm going to contest this will. My mother wasn't in her right mind. She was manipulated. She was deceived. Doctor. Thompson looked at him calmly. Mr. Miller, the will was signed 8 months ago when your mother was in full possession of her mental faculties. It was witnessed by 2 independent people, and it was drafted following all legal requirements. But I'm her son, her only son. I have a right to... You have no right to anything, Mr. Miller. The doctor took out another document. In addition, in anticipation of a possible challenge, your mother asked me to collect evidence of your abandonment. What evidence? The doctor opened a file. Nursing home records showing you didn't visit your mother once in 3 years. Phone records showing your calls went unanswered. Testimonies from nursing home staff and other residents about how you treated your mother. David paled even more. And finally, a recording of the call Nurse Joanna made when your mother was hospitalized with pneumonia. In that recording, you said you were on a business trip and couldn't come see her. The doctor looked him straight in the eyes. Mr. Miller, if you try to contest this will, all of this evidence will become public. The media will find out. Your partners, your clients. Everyone will know exactly what kind of son you were. David felt his legs give way. He collapsed into the chair. Patricia looked at him with disdain. You promised me an inheritance, she said in an icy voice. You promised me your mother had money. I didn't know. You didn't know your mother had $72 million and you didn't know? How is that even possible? David had no answer, because he had never asked, never been interested, never seen his mother as anything more than a burden, and now he was paying the price. Patricia stood up. I'm leaving, she said. And when you get back home, I want your stuff out. Patricia, wait. She was already gone. David was left alone in the back row, surrounded by people looking at him with contempt, with pity, with disgust. The son who abandoned his mother. The son who received nothing because he deserved nothing. The following days were a whirlwind for everyone. Joanna couldn't believe what had happened. $20 million. A fortune she never imagined having. But she felt no joy, only sadness. She would have preferred to have Teresa alive and poor than dead and rich. Helena found her crying in the garden. Joanna, are you okay? I don't know, Helena. This is all too much. I know. It's hard for me to process too. Joanna looked at her. What am I going to do with $20 million? Helena sat down beside her. What Teresa wanted you to do. Open a clinic, help others, do good. Joanna nodded slowly. The clinic. I always dreamed of that. A place where the elderly receive the care they deserve, where no one feels alone or abandoned. A place like the one Teresa should have had. "I'm going to do it," she said finally. "I'm going to open the clinic. And I'm going to call it the Teresa Miller Clinic." Helena smiled with tears in her eyes. She would have loved it. "I know. And every time I help someone, it's going to be for her. Everything is going to be for her." Joaquin was also overwhelmed. $10 million, more money than he had ever seen in his life. But like Joanna, he felt no joy. Only the emptiness his friend had left behind. He sat on the garden bench where they used to sit together. He looked at the flowers, the trees, the blue sky. "Thank you, Teresa," he whispered. "I don't know if I deserve this, but I promise you I'm going to use it well. I'm going to live with dignity, like you always wanted. And I'm going to remember you every day, until the day we meet again." He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he could almost feel Teresa sitting beside him, smiling, telling him that everything was okay. The nursing home changed in the following months. With the funds that Teresa had left, Helena was able to make all the improvements she had always dreamed of. New facilities, better equipment, more staff, larger gardens, activities for the residents, and above all, a plaque at the entrance that read, "Sunrise Assisted Living," in memory of Teresa Miller, who taught us that family is not only of blood but of heart. The residents were happier, more cared for, more loved, and all thanks to a woman who had arrived there abandoned, sad, without hope. A woman who had found a new family, a woman who had left a legacy that would last forever. A year later, Joanna opened the Teresa Miller Clinic. It was a modern, bright building with beautiful gardens and comfortable rooms. It had the best doctors, the best nurses, the best equipment. But the most important thing wasn't that. The most important thing was the spirit of the place. Every employee knew Teresa's story, knew why the clinic existed, knew that their job was more than a job. It was a mission, to care for the elderly as Teresa had wanted to be cared for, to give them dignity, companionship, love. On the day of the inauguration, Joanna gave a speech. "This clinic exists thanks to an incredible woman, a woman who worked as a housekeeper her whole life, a woman who sacrificed everything for her family, a woman who was abandoned by her own son, but who found a new family, us. Teresa taught me that love cannot be bought with money. It is earned with presence, with patience, with small acts of kindness that seem insignificant but mean everything. This clinic is her legacy, and every patient we care for, every smile we provoke, every tear we wipe away, will be in her name. Thank you, Teresa, for trusting me, for believing in me, for giving me the opportunity to do something important with my life. I'm not going to disappoint you. I promise." Joaquin was also at the inauguration. He was 83 years old now, older, slower, but still smiling, still telling bad jokes, still missing his friend. After the ceremony, Joanna found him looking at a portrait of Teresa that they had hung at the entrance. "Joaquin, how are you?" Joaquin smiled. "Good, honey. Very good." She would be proud, right? More than proud. She'd be crying her eyes out. You know how she was. Joanna laughed through her tears. "Yeah, I know how she was." They stood looking at the portrait together. Teresa looked at them from the picture, with her kind smile, with her wise eyes, with that expression of peace she had in her last moments. "I miss her, Joanna," said Joaquin. "Every day." "Me too, Joaquin. Every day. But she's here, right? In some way, she's here." Joanna nodded. "Yes, she's here, in every corner of this place, in every patient we help, in every life we touch." Teresa never left. She just changed form. And David? David lost everything. Patricia left him. She took the house in the divorce, and half of his savings. His businesses began to fail. Without his wife's support, without the reputation he cared so much about, partners began to distance themselves. The story of the will leaked to the press. Someone from the nursing home spoke, or maybe it was Dr. Thompson himself. It didn't matter. The point was, everyone knew. The millionaire who abandoned his mother. The ungrateful son who received nothing because he deserved nothing. His clients abandoned him. His friends stopped calling. Even his own children started to look at him differently. "Dad, how could you do that to Grandma?" his daughter asked him one day. David had no answer, because there was no answer. Only shame and regret. A regret that had come far too late. Some years later, David was sitting in a small apartment, alone, staring out the window. He had lost everything. The money, the family, the reputation, everything. But what hurt him the most wasn't that. What hurt him the most was the memory of his mother. His mother looking at him with hope when he left her at the nursing home. His mother waiting for a call that never came. His mother dying without him by her side. And the letter that haunted him every night. "You gave me life when you were born, but you took it away when you abandoned me." David closed his eyes. Tears rolled down his cheeks. For the first time in his life, he was crying for his mother. Not for the money he had lost, not for the inheritance he hadn't received, but for her, for the woman who had loved him unconditionally, who had sacrificed everything for him, who had carried a secret for 15 years just to protect him from himself, and he had abandoned her. As if she was worth nothing, as if she didn't deserve even an hour of his time. "Forgive me, Mom," he whispered in the solitude of his apartment. "Forgive me for everything." But it was too late. Teresa was gone, and David would have to live with that guilt for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, at the Teresa Miller Clinic, life continued. Joanna continued working, happier than ever. She had found her purpose, her reason for being. Joaquin lived in one of the rooms of the clinic, not because he needed to, but because he wanted to be close to Joanna, close to the place that Teresa had made possible. And Helen visited frequently, proud to see what had grown from those days in the nursing home. One day, an elderly woman arrived at the clinic. She was poor. She was alone. Her family had abandoned her. Joanna received her personally. "Welcome, Mom. Here you will be safe. Here we will take care of you." The elderly woman looked at her with teary eyes. "Really? You're not going to throw me out?" Joanna shook her head. "Never. This is your home now, and we are your family." The elderly woman began to cry. "Thank you, dear. Thank you." Joanna hugged her. And in that moment, looking at that woman who reminded her so much of Teresa Miller, she knew that everything had been worth it. All the pain, all the sadness, all the loss. It had led to this, to a place where abandoned elderly people could find love, to a legacy that would last generations, to a story that would never be forgotten. Teresa Miller had died, but her spirit lived on in every patient in the clinic, in every smile, in every hug, in every act of kindness. And that was more than most people could say. Teresa Miller had lived as a housekeeper, but she had died as a legend, and her story would be told forever. The story of an abandoned mother, the story of an ungrateful son, the story of a will that changed everything, and the story of how true love always finds a way to win, even after death, even when everything seems lost. Love wins, always.